Good morning from the UK. So my name is Emma J. I'm actually a well-being coach and I specialize in stress. So why do I specialize in stress? The reason being, having been a personal trainer and a nutrition consultant for many years, I realized that there was something missing, and I was somebody that already suffered with depression and had suffered with depression myself for many years. And I realized that the more clients I was working with, that there was something missing for many of them. They'd follow the exercise that I'd give them, they'd follow the nutrition plans that I gave them. They weren't getting anywhere. They weren't losing an inch or a pound, and they were actually getting more stressed, more agitated, more upset. They were eating less and exercising more, and there was nothing happening. In fact, some of them were even putting weight on, which baffled me. So I then continued to learn more as I did, and I went to a convention where I learned about hormones and stress and the impact of hormones on the body, and the fact that it's not just exercise and nutrition that plays a part in our weight gain and fat gain, but hormones matter too. And I was blown away, absolutely blown away. And I never looked back from there, okay? It was incredible to learn. And I continued to learn about the rest of the body and how the mind and the body are interlinked, which I knew, but I didn't know anything about. So I gained a lot of education around that. I became a life coach, a mindset coach, learned NLP practice, and realized, while I'm continuing to learn neuroscience at the moment, that the brain and the mindset plays a huge part in whether we stick to that exercise or nutrition program. And stress, ultimately, of any kind, let's talk about stress as a huge umbrella, okay? Not just emotional stress, not just overwhelm and rushing around. Let's talk about stress in its entirety, because stress can be huge, and it is a huge subject. So I'm going to touch on a few things today. But if you are watching this, then I assume that you're stressed of some kind. So whether that is just rushing around in a busy lifestyle, whether you have an illness yourself, whether you look after ill relatives, or whether you have experienced trauma within your life that has enabled you to carry that stress through to your future. Stress is huge. And like I said, it is a huge umbrella and it's a huge topic. So we're going to cover as much as we can today. And what I'm going to do is, if you can hold on to questions and write your questions down, and we can go through questions at the end. So I'll stop short and we'll answer questions at the end, okay? It's just easier the way that the presentation's being delivered today. So what is stress? Now, I know many of you will sit there saying, I don't think I'm stressed. I don't have this brain fog. I don't have overwhelm. I don't feel anxious or anything. However, I have lots of pain regularly. I have poor range of movement. I'm fatigued a lot of the time. I'm losing my hair. My skin is bad. I have irritable bowel. All of those things can be caused by stress. And don't forget, we live in a world that is crazy busy. I know things have slowed down over the pandemic, but stress has increased for a different reason during that time, yeah? Before the pandemic, we were busy. We were rushing around. For many people, they traveled for work. So they get up really early, they're rushing to get ready, they're getting in their car or on a train, they're traveling to work, they have meetings after meetings, they have deadlines, they then have children that they want to spend time with when they get home, they then know that they need to go to the gym because they need to manage their stress and they need to get their body in shape, and take a breath. Stress is a daily occurrence for most of us. And we don't see it as stress because we see it as normal. It is not normal. And the body's response to that stress is huge. So the stress is actually the body's response to feeling threatened under pressure. And that is unrelenting, constant pressure, isn't it? Day in and day out. Now, short-term stress can be very positive. It enables us to thrive, it motivates us, it heightens our awareness and our ability. So when we think about going for a promotion, maybe in work, it's nerve-wracking, isn't it? But it's a good stress. We're bettering ourselves, we're improving ourselves, we're pushing ourselves to a higher level. And it's short-lived, it's not continual. When we look at our ancestors, which I think is very, very important, look back at cavemen days. So our ancestors would either fight animals to kill them, to feed off them, or they'd fight for their lives and to protect themselves and maybe possibly run away. That stress was huge. Now, the response that the body goes through to stress is called fight or flight response. So when we're fighting the animal, running away from it, or whatever we were doing in that back in the day, it would only happen for that short instance. After that, cavemen would go and relax in their cave. They'd pick berries from trees, they'd spend time with their partner and their children, they'd have a lovely, quiet, calm life after that huge stress. They were recovering from it. The hormones were resetting. Yeah, the body was calming. You were recovering. The muscles were recovering from that extreme exertion they were under. Whereas in this day and age, the stress response that the body goes under, so that fight or flight response, the hormone response to stress, is exactly the same whether we're fighting for our lives or we're rushing to get to work on time and get the kids to school. It's exactly the same. And unfortunately, nowadays, it's unrelenting, isn't it? Back in cavemen days, as I said, they would relax in their cave. They would make love to their partner. They would search for berries. They'd play with their kids. They'd have that calm for probably a week or even more, depending on how long they could feed off that meal, that feast that they just killed. In our days, we don't recover well. For many people that are overly stressed, they don't sleep, and sleep is our recovery. Sleep is where our hormones reset and recover. It's where our body repairs and recovers. And if we don't have adequate sleep, then again, we remain with elevated stress hormones. So prolonged long-term stress, chronic stress, exceeding our ability to adapt is negative, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I think a lot of people are unaware of this. So as I've already explained, when we're under stress, the body prepares itself for fight, flight, or sometimes freeze, which again dates back to our ancestors. So what happens is our nervous system responds by releasing stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. Now, that's good because obviously it's a stress response. The body's designed for this, but we don't want cortisol and adrenaline to be released constantly. We want them that fight or flight response to be blunted. We want to recover from that. So what happens here is the heart pounds faster, our muscles contract and tighten, blood pressure rises, the breath quickens. So we take short, sharp, rapid breaths. And I'm sure you've experienced this when you're stressed, whether that is huge stress or small stress. The heart really speeds up, doesn't it? And our sense of awareness, all of our senses become heightened. So what happens is adrenaline gives us that alert, aware, that senses being sharpened feeling, whereas cortisol gives us the energy to either fight the animal or rush to get to work. So it gives us that energy. It dumps sugar into the body to deal with that stressful situation. And it also allows the body or helps the body to recover from that stressful situation. So this response is important. We need it. However, we don't want that to happen all day long. So you think about a normal day. We get up to an alarm, usually. That's the stress. Yeah, we're not waking naturally. That's the stress on the body. We then dive out of bed, rush to get ready, dive in the car, probably rush in a load of traffic. We're then sitting in the traffic thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to get to work. What's the time? I've got to get to work. All complete and utter stress, constant unrelenting stress. You then get into work, you realize that you haven't hit your deadline, you're behind on meetings, the next meeting is running late, you haven't hit the deadline. It's constant stress. Now, I know it's easy to say that we need to control this better, but that is life, isn't it? And many people will say, I'm not stressed, that's my normal everyday life. However, internally, how the mind and the body is responding to that is complete fear, complete survival mechanism, complete fight or flight. And we don't want to be in this for a long period of time. We want to ensure that we recover from it. So the more stress we experience, the more our body will fight back. Now, let's look a little bit at diet and nutrition in amongst this, okay? When we go to an extreme diet, it is actually detrimental to the body. What will happen is the metabolism will fight back at us when we're not feeding the body enough to support what it does every day. Yes, to lose weight, we need to be in a calorie deficit. Of course we do. But when you're crash dieting and you're actually starving the body theoretically, then again, the body is going to fight back at you. And for many people, they will find that they'll actually store fat because that is the stress response. Cortisol is actually a killer, okay? And cortisol alone, cortisol and adrenaline being released constantly, means that our body will go into fat storage, not fat burning. We need human growth hormone and testosterone present at the same time to enable the body to muscle build and fat burn, which means that your exercise program needs to be spot on. Yeah, we don't need to over-exercise, because over-exercising is only continually releasing cortisol and adrenaline. We also don't need to crash diet. We just need to eat enough calories to support what we do each day. Otherwise, if we're crash dieting, again, cortisol and adrenaline will kick in. They're there all of the time. They're there as a stress response. You know, the brain's primal function is to protect us, and it will do that. This machine that we have here is the most incredible machine you will ever own, the most incredible place you will ever live, and it will protect us to the end. However, that does mean that the rest of the body and the mind may suffer from that. Don't forget, an unhealthy mind equals an unhealthy body. And so many people will think that their stress and their unhappiness stems from them not being happy with their body. They're overweight, or they're tired, or they're worn out, or they haven't got the body they had 10 years ago. You're not going to get the body you had 10 years ago if the mind isn't right either. So we have to reduce that stress. We have to identify what is going on within our body, within our lifestyle, within the environment that we live in, to ensure that our mind and our body can adapt to that correctly. Scientific research has actually proven that sustained high levels of cortisol triggered by unrelenting stress has huge debilitating effects on long-term health. As I explained earlier, I mean, the primary role of cortisol is to encourage the body to refuel after stress and to give us that energy to deal with that stressful situation. So if those cortisol levels are raised for too long, they actually leave us feeling more hungry and craving more. Also, with a drop in energy. So let's have a little look at normal life. For many people, they're late sleepers and early wakers. Yeah, so they go to bed late and they wake up early because they have so much to do. Definitely the worst thing that we can do, okay? Because we need between 7 and 9 hours good quality sleep per night. However, we need that sleep before sun up, which is usually between 5 and 6 a.m. So if you're going to bed at 12 thinking, yay, I'm getting up at 7, I'm getting 7 hours good quality sleep, you're probably missing around about 1 to 2 hours of important rehabilitation time there. Because during sleep, the body repairs and recovers and the hormones reset. If you're not having adequate sleep, then you're going to wake with elevated cortisol, which can result then in you having sugar cravings throughout the day. And that is an ongoing vicious cycle that you can be in all day. You eat sugar for breakfast, you then want to eat sugar all day long, which again is an added stress, because don't forget, the body does not like a huge amount of sugar, specifically man-made refined sugar. And I'm not going to go into all of the hormones too much today, okay? I just want to explain about stress, but I do want to touch on the fact that by eating sugar, if our blood sugar levels increase, then another hormone called insulin will kick in and take a chunk of that blood sugar and dump it into the fat cells and store it as fat, okay? However, insulin doesn't actually have a regulator on it, so it doesn't know how much to take. So it may take too much, leaving us, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, specifically mid-afternoon, leaving us with that low energy, low on sugar feeling, where we reach for a Mars bar, or there's lots of other chocolate that you could buy, by the way, but for a chocolate bar or a soda drink or something that's really high in sugar, because we have to have sugar. Actually, yes, you do need sugar, but you can get that sugar from vegetables. So you could nibble on a few carrots, which have good natural sugar in them, and are not going to leave you with elevated sugar levels, where again, the insulin needs to kick in again. So let me explain this to you. As I said, we eat sugar, our sugar levels are too high, which is a stress on the body. So insulin kicks in, takes some of that sugar and dumps it in the fat cells and stores it as fat. However, it may take too much, so you may then have a slump of sugar again. You then go and eat sugar again because you feel like you need sugar, which again triggers insulin, which does take a chunk of that sugar, store it in the fat cells. Can you see where I'm going with this? This is going on all day long for those of you that are not blunting that sugar craving effect. Now, we can blunt that sugar craving effect by eating proteins and vegetables. So proteins and vegetables will keep us fuller for longer, prevent hunger, and prevent craving. So this is where we need to be the majority of the time. Sugar and carbohydrates are obviously the same thing. We have good and bad carbs, yeah? So obviously man-made refined carbs, things like cakes, biscuits, those types of things are not, we all know they're unhealthy. But then you have good carbohydrates like your wholemeal rice, wholemeal pasta, sweet potato, quinoa, couscous, those types of things. So I'm not saying don't eat carbohydrates. We need them. They're our main source of energy. But think about the stress that you're putting on your body by eating this refined man-made sugar. Okay, be aware of it, limit it, and go for more proteins and vegetables that are going to keep you full for longer, prevent hunger, and prevent cravings. Otherwise, there'll be fat stored around the abdomen. And this can be highly associated with the development of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, which again is a huge stress on the body. Remember I said in the very beginning of this talk, we're using stress as a huge umbrella. I could talk to you all day about this, okay? But I'm trying to pick out the bits that I think are relevant to everyday life. So watching what you eat and being aware of what that's doing to you both mentally and physically. So elevated cortisol levels resulting from chronic stress have actually been associated with many illnesses, okay? And many conditions. So increased body fat is very common. Now, I know you're going to say to me, oh, I know a lady who's overly stressed and she's lost loads of weight. She's really, really, really thin. That's very few and far between, okay? Obviously, it is not a one size fits all. This rule does not apply to every single person in the world, the same as nothing else does. So, but what does apply is that cortisol is a fat storing hormone. And if it's released constantly, unrelenting, then you will store fat. You may be somebody that's naturally thin, but you may have some fat stored around your abdomen area. For us ladies, it would be the butt and thighs. And for the men, it will be mostly here, okay? Reduced libido, very common in stress. And listen, you know, I'm sure for many of you, you've been there. I've suffered with stress a lot in my life. I've suffered with depression since 2002. I had quite severe postnatal depression after having my little girl. And reduced libido was a huge thing for me. I think it's probably more common with women, but I know men suffer from it as well. You think of a time that you've been overly stressed. And no matter how much you love your partner, the last thing you can think of is being intimate because you feel stressed. What comes along with stress? Lack of confidence, self-criticism, and all of the negative self-talk that we have. Do we really want to get naked and be intimate with our partners then? Probably not. But what also happens when we're stressed is testosterone drops. So when cortisol is elevated, testosterone drops. And for us women, we have limited testosterone naturally anyway. So the last thing we want for that is for that to drop. And don't forget that's for both mental and physical well-being, because we need to try and maintain a high level of testosterone for as long as we can. Because when it comes to our menopause time, then we want to be clinging on to it, okay? So looking at balancing these hormones and understanding them and understanding what we need to do is vitally important. Again, decreased bone density is very common with stress, you know, so maintaining healthy eating, maintaining a good, adequate exercise program that's not over exercising and it's not crash dieting, but it's enough for you in that right time. Now, I will always say to my clients that are overly stressed, if you're in extreme stress and you're at the verge of burnout, then sometimes exercise is not the right thing for you to do there, okay? Sometimes you need to take a step back and just walk in a leisurely, comfortable, happy nature walk, a leisurely walk every day. That is the best thing. And I know many of you are going to say, what, for fat loss? Yes, because cortisol is elevated, so you're storing fat. However, if you're going to go into a gym session when you're on the verge of burnout and you've got chronic, unrelenting stress, you're going to add more stress, okay, to an already overloaded system. So going for a nice walk every single day, clearing the mind, allowing that cortisol to be reduced is the best thing you can do. And yes, you will find that you'll have fat loss when you do that consistently because you're lowering the stress. Sometimes it's not the weight problem or the fat store problem is not maybe poor eating habits or lack of exercise. Sometimes it's stress, and it's the stress that needs to be reduced. I can remember talking to a client this week and saying, it's all well and good that you're walking every day, you're doing yoga, you're doing meditation, mindfulness, and all of the tools that I would advise for stress management. But if you're not getting to the core problem, the root problem of your stress, then how are you ever going to deal with that properly? Because at the moment, by doing the yoga, the walking, the meditation, you're just sticking a plaster over what's a very, very large wound that's not healed yet. I hope that makes sense. So other conditions that are increased anxiety and depression, obviously very common, mood swings, decreased muscle mass, memory and learning impairment. Gosh, I can remember specifically after having my little girl, and I know baby brain is a thing, by the way, for the gentlemen that are watching, baby brain is a thing, but I couldn't think straight. So it was a combination of, obviously, yes, the hormonal effect of just having a baby, but also it was the fact that I was so stressed and on that verge of burnout that I simply could not think straight. So the mind, don't forget, the brain is such a clever, the most clever machine we'll ever see in our lives. What it does is it locks down on us, okay? It tightens our joints. It reduces our range of movement. It reduces our visual field when it sees threat. And also it will say, hang on, you can't intake much more information because I need you to look after you. I need you to focus. I need you to look after, in my case, you and this little baby are the most important things. Everything else that's going on around really doesn't matter. You know, you need to protect you. And that's what the brain does. So sometimes when we're overly stressed, you'll find that you have brain fog because literally the brain will not allow any more information in. It wants to protect you. That's its ultimate goal, is to protect you. So learning and memory and learning impairment is quite common when people are stressed. Persistent and unrelenting stress. So daily life becomes one big stress, doesn't it? As I said earlier, you know, we can't see a way out of it. And unfortunately for many people, they're adding to that. They're stressed, so self-care is non-existent. They're not looking after themselves. They're not taking time to walk, to meditate, to do yoga or something that's calming, or even just to sit and be in the moment. How often do you get up in the morning and just sit? Just sit, hopefully with a journal, and just write down your thoughts. Write down your intentions for the day and clear the clutter that's in your mind. How often do you do that? How often do you allow yourself that time to just be in the moment? It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult for all of us, you know. I run a business and I have a little girl, and I know that sometimes I've got to check myself as well, you know. I may teach this and it may be my area of expertise and it may be what I've learned so much over the past few years. But when you're in that situation, when I had postnatal depression, I could not help myself. I had to get guidance and help from my coach. Coaches need coaches, okay? We all need some advice and some help at some times in our lives. We cannot go it alone. And sometimes we cannot see the wood for the trees. We cannot find a path, a clear path forward, because we are just so cluttered up here that we cannot find that way out. Self-care is non-existent, you know. We fumble, shall we call it, through life every single day, just surviving. Instead of thriving, we're surviving. We'd wake up in the morning thinking, oh, actually, I can't wait to go back to bed tonight, because that's how stressed you are. You have no plan how to get you through the day. Many people then turn to poor eating habits because that is an emotional trigger. So you're stressed, you go for the biscuits or the chocolates, drinking alcohol. For some people, taking drugs. These are emotional releases. There's nothing wrong with any of this if anybody's experienced this. Don't think bad of yourself if you've had to turn to these things. It's natural. It seems like the only way out sometimes. Unfortunately, let's look at how this is going to affect us. Poor eating habits. We've already discussed how sugar is a huge stress on both the mind and the body. Yeah? So if you're eating junk food, quick convenience food all the time because you don't have time, yeah, because you're stressed, because you're running a business or working in a great job, you have kids, you have family, breathe. When all of those things are going on, we're turning to these unhealthy habits and it's adding to our stress. We're drinking alcohol, which has 0 calories in it. It's forcing us to eat poorly because we've had a few drinks. It's also, again, increasing the sugar within our system, and it has a really, really negative effect on dehydrating the body. That's irrelevant to the fact that it's a depressant. So you're already feeling stressed, maybe anxious, maybe depressed, and then alcohol is exacerbating all of those. But you can't see a way out. You've had a very stressful day, so you're going to reward yourself with a drink. Or You haven't had a stressful day. It's been a great day compared to the stressful week you've had. So you're going to reward yourself with alcohol and a pizza and some chocolate or some popcorn. Can you see where I'm going with this? And the mind and the body just cannot take any more. It's too much. It's unrelenting. And unfortunately, we are adding to our stress. We are adding to what's already an overloaded system by choosing these unhealthy habits. And listen, I've been there. I am absolutely not sitting here from a place of judgment whatsoever. I've been there. I've chosen the wrong foods. I've drunk alcohol. I've stayed out all night partying, thinking that, yeah, you know, that's the answer to it. And then the next day I'm absolutely exhausted. I've drunk too much alcohol. I'm dehydrated, you know? But from years of learning and years of realizing that those things were not helping me, I've learned more. I've experienced what some of you are experiencing. I've used the emotional releases that some of you are using. And believe me, it only makes the situation worse. Let's look at this as ultimately the most amazing machine we will ever have. If you buy a new car, you look after it, don't you? You put the right fuel in it, you oil it, you put the right oil in it, you look after it, you get it polished. Okay, but what about this? What about this machine? The one machine that will get us through to the end of our lives. That car won't. We'll have to change that car in a year or two. This machine, we don't put the right fuel in it sometimes. We don't look after it sometimes. The self-care doesn't happen. I mean, I'm sure you wash, so we'll take that off the list. But, you know, we don't look after it as we're meant to. We don't nourish our skin. We don't feed it correctly. We don't hydrate it properly. All of these things that add into your stress. And I know at the moment you're thinking, yeah, you're totally right. However, I'm so stressed. I'm so short on time. I have no idea how I'm going to correct all of this. I'm going to come to that in a second, okay? When you're feeling this way, you have a complete loss of identity. Your confidence drops. Your strength becomes, you know, your lack of strength becomes very, very common. I know that a few of my clients use the words lost, vulnerable, frail, you know, and those words come up quite a lot with my clients. And I know that they were words that popped into my head when I was feeling this way, you know, but we can do something about it. There's a positive, and I promise you I'm getting there. We spoke earlier about sleep, the importance of sleep. Sleep enables our hormones to reset. Lack of sleep will mean that we wake with elevated cortisol. So if you don't take anything away from today other than this, we need to improve sleep habits. If you're overly stressed, I guarantee that you either can't go to sleep or you wake up in the middle of the night with everything you've got going on, going around and around your head, yeah? Deep breathing and specifically box breathing can help with this massively. So while you're watching, I want you to pop your hand on your tummy. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to envisage breathing in through the nose, the air traveling down your throat, down your chest, all the way down into your lungs, making your tummy big. So when our lungs expand, the tummy expands, and we get a nice big tummy. And then we're going to exhale, so the tummy gets smaller. The air comes out and out through the mouth. So I'm going to talk you through it. Let's do it together. Hand on your tummy. Big inhale through the nose. Make the tummy big. Then exhale through the mouth. For many of you, you'll be taking still short, sharp, rapid breaths from your chest. Let's think. Close your eyes and focus. Inhale through the nose. Envisage that air traveling down your chest, down into your lungs, expanding the lungs so your tummy gets big. Just pushing your hand out. Just release that air now. Tummy goes in, air comes up, and exhale through the mouth. In your own time. In through the nose. And out through the mouth. And slowly open your eyes and come back into the room. And big deep breaths. I wanted to get you to this point because we can talk and it gets to a point where we don't take it on any more information. So one, I wanted to teach you how to breathe correctly. And two, I wanted to reset so that we can continue and you can learn more from my talk. That breathing is just basic deep abdominal breathing, which is something you can use to fall to sleep. And it's something you can use if you wake up. Box breathing is also great. So what I find when I wake up in the night, if my mind is racing, then it's really hard to calm that mind with just deep breathing because your mind is still able to wander, isn't it? With box breathing, it's quite different. You have to focus and concentrate on counting, okay? So with box breathing, think of a box. We're going to breathe in for 3 seconds. We're going to hold that breath for 3 seconds before we breathe out for 3 seconds. And then we're going to hold it again before we breathe in. And we're going to do this together. So listen to my instructions. Let's close our eyes. Pop your hands on your tummy so that you know that the lungs are filling with air, not the chest. We're not raising from the chest, we're raising from the abdomen, okay? So, big deep breath in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. In your own time, breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. And hold. One more. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. And hold. And relax. Just breathe naturally. Open your eyes, come back into the room. Well done. I hope this helps. So, I highly recommend that you deep breathe regularly. You practice this deep breathing, this deep abdominal breathing, okay? And if you wake in the night, then you do the box breathing to silence the mind by focusing on the count and by focusing on holding that breath, the mind can't really wander. Now, when we're looking at stress and when we're looking at sleep, we need to have a plan. So when we're looking at sleep, what are you going to do to improve your sleep? Now, things that affect sleep are things like alcohol, stress, personal issues, which again is stress, drinking too much caffeine, maybe illness, or lifestyle change. Exercise and good nutrition are the most powerful sleep aids that we have. But again, I'm going to go into a plan with you soon, but it is important that when you exercise and when you're eating healthy, you still do that right for where you are at the moment. Whoever's listening, you're all going to be in completely different positions with your stress, okay? So you need to assess where your stress is at and what you're going to do that's going to best benefit you as an individual, okay? So as I said earlier, if you're overly stressed, this chronic, unrelenting stress has been going on for a long time, and you're at that point of burnout, the brain, you can't think clearly, you're exhausted all of the time. Take a step back. Yes, you need to correct your food. You need to look at your lifestyle choices. You need to look at the environment around you. All of you need to do that if you're stressed. But if you're at the point of burnout, and burnout and stress are very different things. When we're stressed, we're still 100 miles an hour and we're looking for the next thing we can do. Whereas burnout is you couldn't possibly think of doing anything else. You have zero energy, you're fatigued all of the time. You have complete brain fog where you feel you can't even string a sentence together sometimes. So they're very different. If you're on the verge of burnout, then you need to not exercise for now. You just need to walk every single day to lower cortisol and try to find a balance within those hormones again. If you're stressed and you're still chasing and you're 100 miles an hour, you need to stop and you need to find a way to slow down, because believe me, if that stress turns into burnout, it can take a lot longer to recover. You've got control if you're just stressed, you're still in control. At burnout, you're losing control and you need to pull that back, okay? So look at the whole environment that you live in. What does your day look like? Are you getting up to an alarm? Are you rushing from the time that you wake? If so, then that needs to change. I highly recommend that you get up half an hour earlier. Yes, you may need to set an alarm for the moment, but you wake up You open the blinds so that you allow the natural sunlight into your eyes so that we can release melatonin. So when I'm talking about stress hormones, we obviously have happy hormones as well, okay? So serotonin and melatonin are really, really important. And we need to look at raising those and lowering the stress hormones. So raising the happy hormones and lowering the stress hormones and controlling this, having control, understanding, identifying, and having awareness over your whole life and health and happiness. So when you wake in the morning, have a routine. I'm a biggie on a morning routine. It sets you up for the day. It allows you to have positive energy. It allows you to create your own state. What state do you want to be put in for that day? Do you want a stress state, or do you want a calm, positive, productive state? I know which one I want to go for. This is why I do a morning routine every day. So you wake, open the blinds, allow natural sunlight in, and even I tend to lean on my windowsill and I look into the sun or into the light, and I take my big deep breaths there. Do them there. That's my start to the day. Then maybe try moving your body. So if you're somebody that can get out for a walk straight away, let's do it. If you're somebody that likes to exercise first thing in the morning, great, let's do it. If you're at the stage where you're not adding more stress to yourself. For me, I like to stretch. I like to do a little bit of what yoga, I suppose, but stretching, opening up the airways, opening up my rib cage, allowing those tight joints that the brain may have locked down on, allowing those to go through their natural range of movement, opening up my body, stretching my body, allowing oxygen in so that the brain is alert, the brain is energized immediately within the morning. What I do then is I drink a big glass of water and I get in my journal straight away. So I journal for that morning and I set intentions for the day. What do I want my day to look like? Not what is the world going to make my day look like? How am I going to make my day look? And by setting your intentions for the day, by being positive, by being energized, being vibrant in that morning, your day is more likely to go better. Now listen, we can't predict how life is going to come and sweep us off our feet, and we can't stop life events from happening. However, if we're in more control of our life, if we've reduced our stress, when unexpected events come along, then we're more able to deal with them. We're more capable of taking that on. We're stronger, we're more resilient, we're more confident, and we can deal with that better than we could if stress had taken over us. So looking at your whole lifestyle is really important. Having that morning routine, setting yourself up for the day that you want. Having a look at your sleep. How can you change it? What can you do to improve it? So by exercising, by even just going for your walk, by getting fresh air, by moving and allowing the body to do what it's meant to do, to move, will enable you to sleep better. Bathing in Epsom salts is fantastic too. Now, I would say not a really hot bath, just a nice warm bath, and that will enable you, so Epsom salts are muscle relaxant, so that will enable you to relax ready for a nice sleep. Doing your breathing techniques in the evening. Making sure that you don't have any electronics on, I use my phone for my alarm, but my phone is way behind me and I turn it over so there's no light, there's no LED, it's gone, it's behind me. Take the TV out of your bedroom. Don't watch television in bed, okay? The worst thing you can do, what we don't want is to keep the brain fired and wired. What we want to silence the brain. We want to calm the brain. We want to allow it to relax and rest and recover. And we can't do that if we've got electronics on and we're keeping it fired. Okay, so read an old-fashioned book. Read an old-fashioned book. Talk to your partner, turn the TV off. I would definitely say switch electronics off an hour before you want to go to bed. And don't forget, we're looking at sleeping 7 to 9 hours before sun up. So ideally 7 to 9 hours before maybe 6 a.m. Okay. All of those things will help you sleep properly. Don't forget, you don't want to be going to sleep hungry, but you also don't want to be eating high sugar foods just before going to bed either. The body's not going to be able to break them down. Look at your work day and your family and your work-life balance. I'm not a lover of saying work-life balance because I don't feel that there has to be one. I mean, you should have balance in your whole life anyway. But let's have a little look at, how do you get to work? Are you rushing? Could you leave earlier? Could you take a different form of transport so that you're not so stressed? Are you stuck behind traffic? Would the train be better for you? You know, what is your work environment like? What's your home environment like? Is everything cluttered? Have you got a lot of mess? Are you untidy? And if you're an untidy, cluttered person, then the mind is going to be cluttered. Okay, the best thing to declutter a mind is to have a decluttered, calm environment, both to live and work in. If you're working from home at the moment, try and separate that. Make sure that you have a work area so that your brain doesn't see the whole house as work, because we need to have a separation. You know, the same with the television in your bedroom, isn't it? If you've got a television in your bedroom and you're laying on the bed watching television, your mind doesn't see this as your sleep area. You know, it sees it as your sort of lounge area then instead. So let's keep the television in your actual lounge, and then when you go to bed, there's no electronics there, and your brain adapts to, okay, it's sleep time now. The brain likes repetition. So when we repeat these patterns, then it becomes the norm for the brain and it becomes calm. Now, don't forget, with negativity, that can become a repeated pattern. And when I said to you about the brain's main focus is to protect us, it will attach to negativity simply because it wants to devise a plan to protect us from that negative situation or from that stress or from that threat. So it's up to us to create positive neurological pathways by creating a happy, calm, peaceful, vibrant, energetic, happy hormone environment, isn't it? It's up to us to create that. Because listen, life will come and knock us off our feet. It will. It's up to you how prepared you will be for that. So look at your working environment. Look at your family life, the pressure that you may be under. Look at when you're going to fit in time for yourself, because self-care is vitally important. And once you've got to the root cause of your stress, you know, because it could be work, it could be a family member, it could be lack of time, it could be money problems. Once you've got to that root cause and you're dealing with that situation better, instead of putting it off and pushing it to one side, then things like yoga, walking, mindfulness, meditation, just laying and reading an old-fashioned book will all benefit you massively. Once you're dealing with the underlying stress, those tools are fantastic, and you do need to implement them into your life. And if you're somebody that loves weightlifting, loves classes, loves high energy exercise, you still need to counterbalance that with some relaxation too. Okay, think of it like a seesaw. We don't want one end to be top heavy, do we? We want to balance that. Okay, so having great exercise sessions but great rest and relaxation is the way that you're going to find the best balance for your life and your mindset. So fuel and movement for happiness. We've discussed this, okay? Good foods to de-stress. Lots of vegetables so that you get lots of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that the whole body needs. It's vital that we get those. Being hydrated, making sure that you're drinking water and not energy drinks and stimulants and maybe alcohol regularly. All of those things in excess are going to dehydrate you, as well as obviously, when you're looking at caffeinated drinks or energy drinks of any kind, they're going to increase anxiety, which ultimately will increase depression and low mood as it's a knock-on effect. The same with alcohol. You know, try and drink as much water as you can each day. Bare minimum 2 liters each day. Exercise to stay fit and strong, but exercise right for you, not what your friend is doing. If your friend is lifting heavy weights and has done for the last 10 years and you've never done it, going and lifting heavy weights needs to be done correctly. You need to be shown what to do. And if you're in that extreme state of stress, then maybe just walking would be best for you right now. Sleep to help recovery and implementing a stress strategy are all very, very important. So I've already covered this: walking, meditation, mindfulness, yoga. Get to the root cause of the stress first, and consistency is key. This is something I really, really want to stress. I love that word, don't I? Put your own gas mask on first. I love that saying, because if you're on an aeroplane, the air stewardess will tell you to fit your mask first before you go to your child or anyone else, because you're not going to be any use to your children, to your family, to your partner, or the people in work if you're not looking after you. So if you're in the mindset at the moment of self-care, doing all of this, rest, relaxation, etc., is selfish and you don't have time for it and it's not fair on your partner or your family, think of it as you're looking after them too. Because if you're not in the best health mentally and physically, how can you possibly be the best for them? How can you be the best partner, the best parent, the best child, the best employee, or the best co-worker? How can you possibly be any good at those things if you're not looking after you? It doesn't have to be selfish. It doesn't have to, self-love doesn't have to be selfish. Self-love is vitally important for our long-term health and well-being. Put your own gas mask on first. And don't forget, consistency is key. Consistency with healthy eating and exercise, is important. You're not going to get the body you want if you don't go to the gym regularly and you don't eat healthy. However, you're not going to manage stress well unless you look after the mind, unless you identify your stress, unless you manage that stress and reduce that stress really well. The mind is just as important as the body. Let's remember we have 3 brains. So we have the brain, the heart, and the gut. They all work in sync, okay? The whole body is connected. And believe me, you have neurons in each of these, okay? So if the mind isn't working properly, then you'll be emotional. You may also have irritable bowel or gut problems. And flip side, if you're eating poorly and your gut isn't healthy, again, you'll be emotional, but again, the mind will be affected. You won't think clearly. They're all connected. You need to look after this as a whole, as an entirety. Say, I am putting steps in place and I'm going to manage my mental and physical well-being. Stress is going to be reduced and I am going to be stress-free. Thank you all very much for listening. Like I said, have a little look at your lifestyle choices, the support network you have around you, and self-love is critical. Looking at your mind and body as a whole, not just focusing on one area. They're all interlinked. I really enjoyed talking today. Happy to take some questions. Let me just end the show. Perfect. There you go. So, thank you. I perfectly answered my question on tips for improving sleep. My pleasure. Especially if we are already not using. Yeah, exactly. I mean, something else I want to touch on with sleep as well. So a lot of people that are watching their weight will specifically reduce. I mean, it's the old saying, isn't it? Not to eat too late in the evening. Now, it depends on your lifestyle. And I would say that taking information but applying it to you is important. Don't follow what everybody else does. So when you're saying about eating late before you go to bed and you'd store fat, that obviously is a thing. It will happen if you're not eating the right thing. But also, if you don't have enough carbs later on in the day, then sleep can be affected by that as well. But look at your clean carbs. So maybe with your evening meal, make sure you have some wholemeal rice, quinoa, sweet potato. Eating sort of cakes, biscuits, cereals, those types of things obviously isn't good. But when we're sleeping, there is a lot that goes on, and that does take some energy. So we do still need some carbohydrates, but stick to your clean carbohydrates, not your refined man-made sugar. So there's a little tip for sleep as well. My pleasure. My pleasure. So I hope you all enjoyed. We've got some time left. Are there any more questions? Just wait for those to come through. It's difficult when I talk about stress because so many people feel that they're not question, just to say thank you. Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. So many people feel that they're not stressed. Hopefully from today you can identify if you are slightly stressed, because obviously pain, like I said, stress can result in pain. If you've already got an existing injury, then that injury, the pain from that injury can be exacerbated when you're under stress. I know I've got a bad back, and when I'm stressed, that plays up even more, So start maybe identifying things, and journaling. Honestly, journaling is probably one of the best tools you can use for getting to know yourself. I think self-awareness is so important. So by journaling, it allows you to get to know your triggers, your habits, and all of the traits that you have, and even the little things that you forget that you do each day. So you may think you don't eat poorly, but you may have the odd biscuit in work, or you may have a bar of chocolate when you call to put fuel in your car, or those types of things tend to slip our minds. By writing things down, by journaling, one, we can clear the clutter that's in our mind, and we can regain clarity over everything, because sometimes we see situations to be much bigger and be very different to what they actually are. Remember that the information that we're intaking each day, it's billions upon billions, okay, of information each day. We only retain 0.032% of that information, which is a tiny, tiny amount. And honestly, we all see things differently. So I could be an exact same situation as you, but see it very differently. Okay, so we have to be aware of that. We really have to be aware that not everything we see and hear is exactly as we see and hear it. Getting it down, write it down, and gain clarity over it first. How can you determine if your body is allergic? Through stress. Okay, so allergies from stress would usually be sort of food allergies. So if you're bloating, if you have discomfort after food, and again, this is where journaling comes in handy. I'm a big believer in sort of keeping a food diary. If you have things going on and you have maybe food allergies from stress, you will know, because you will bloat, you may have wind, you may be low on energy after eating something, you may even have a headache from it, you may come out in spots or a rash, hives, that type of thing from it. But it's important to write that down. But it may not be that you have an allergy, it may just be your body's response to the stress. So again, I would identify, I use the 4 A's, okay? So something that I use in my coaching business is called the 4 A's. So awareness, self-awareness, and awareness of the environment that you live in and everything that's going on around you. You only have that by writing it down. You then need to accept that for what it is, because it isn't always how we see it to be, how we interpret it. Acceptance of where you are now. And I think a biggie for that is, so many, and specifically women do this. I haven't got the body I had 10 years ago. I used to wear this dress. I can't wear it now. You need to accept who you are and where you are now. And you need to have a plan in place for you now, not the you of 10 years ago. Okay, so irrelevant to losing weight, I'm just using that as an example, but your stress, your lifestyle, your hormones, your reactions, your behaviors, they're all very different now to what they were previously. And we actually change minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Okay, so you're not going to know what's affecting you or how it's affecting you until you write it all down. Listen, I'm more than happy if anybody wants to reach out to me on social media, if you'd like to delve a little bit deeper, if you'd like me to give you some advice. From the back of this summit, I'm offering 30 minutes free consultation. So if anybody is thinking that, yeah, you really need to get a little bit more advice from that, then I'm more than happy for you to reach out and we can go through some techniques and we can try and identify what's going on with you. Because there will be, for many of you, thinking that it may not be stress, but you have pain, you have no interest in sex, you have maybe bloating, you may have all of this other stuff going on, but you don't feel you're stressed. If someone just always has been a 5 or 6 hour sleeper, is that normal or also indicative of stress levels? Okay, so there's so many people that will manage on less sleep, okay, because it's naturally, you may wake naturally. It's okay if you're doing that, because obviously that's you as an individual. However, I will say that that is still putting stress on you. Okay, that is still means that during that time, your body, the processes that occur during sleep are not occurring properly, and there may be some backlash on that, because it may mean that you then have elevated cortisol, you may have fat storage, you may have anxiety. You need to look at those things. Have a think about everything I've discussed today, and if you can pull out any of those key indicators to stress, then probably that reduced sleep isn't benefiting in you as you feel it is, because 5 to 6 hours is not really adequate enough for the body processes to occur. You may feel that you cope well on it, but internally, what effect is that having on you? Write it down. Are you stressed? Have you got tummy problems? Have you got loss of hair? Have you got poor skin? Are you fatigued all of the time? All the things that I've discussed today. If you have those going on and the only thing you can see that could be a stress is the sleep, then you may need to try and make that sleep a little bit longer. Any other questions? Just going to have a little drink while we're waiting. So as I said, and I think it's key to recognize that we're all different. One size does not fit all, okay? Whether that's an exercise program, eating, sleep habits, your hormones, we're all completely different. And what's going to work for one may not work for another. Okay, but I think that's really important to understand, because we're all very quick to follow what our friends, our peers, our family are doing, when it might not actually be the right thing for us. And that's disheartening then, isn't it? Because if you're not seeing results in your life of any kind, then it's disheartening. You're then again feeling stressed. You're turning to the emotional comfort, the comfort food, alcohol, all of these things, because you feel that things are not working for you. You have to identify who you are. So awareness, acceptance, accountability. So be accountable for the choices you've made, the choices you are making each day. Be accountable for the fact that you have got, we have to be aware that we've got ourselves to where we are now, okay? And I know that may sound a little bit harsh, and I don't mean it to be harsh, but we are the only people that can change things. So if you're not happy, if you're unhealthy, if there's anything going on, only you can change it. So be accountable for where you are now. And naturally, the fourth A is adaptation. So naturally, adaptation will happen. If you're aware, if you accept, if you're accountable, then change can happen. But only you can do that. Okay. My pleasure, my absolute pleasure. It's been really, really nice. Unfortunately, I wish I could see you all, and I wish we could chat, but yeah, it's been great. It's been really, really great. So if anybody needs any further advice, then please feel free to pop me a message on social media. And yeah, so last time, is there any other questions? No? Okay. Just going to pop a message in here. No further questions. My pleasure. Okay, have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to tune in later because there's a few people I'd love to listen to. My pleasure, Priscilla. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to log off. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Have a great day. Bye.